Hey everyone, I'm Wa.
And I'm Chris. Oh, and welcome to Docu Sweetie. See, I forget things all the time. Okay, here's the thing. You
You're
guys, we
fine.
forgot we forgot to do no, I'm just gonna go into it. We forgot to do the end of episode 2 in episode 2. So just as I forgot to say Docu Sweeties, we forgot that. And so we're going to add it on. So anyway, this is Docu Sweeties. Wah. She hates it. Just do it again.
We're two longtime friends to discuss the riveting and sometimes trashy world of reality TV and docuseries.
Yes, but through our own lens, which is very forgetful, and like messy and forgetful, sometimes but also sweet.
Yay!
Hi, guys. We're talking about Madoff, the Wolf of Wall Street. No, the Monster of Wall Street. It's season 1, maybe. We'll see. It's episode 3. This is called See No Evil. Now, here's the truth, which I've already made mention, is that in episode 2, we forgot to talk about two things. So we're just going to massage that into the beginning of this and continue on this horrible story of this financial sociopath just taking billions and millions from people all over the world. Okay, so in episode 2, what ends up happening is Barons ends up writing an article, and the article is like, how the hell did he do it? How can he do it? It's what? And therefore being as kindly as possible, raising like a hard eyebrow, and it makes Bernie freak out because he knows he is an absolute fraud. And so he's like, it's one of those things where he doesn't want any publicity, bad nor good. This coming out is bad, obviously, for him. And he feels like he has to, make sure that people are just like not talking to anyone. He gets really intense about how many times he's calling his secretary on the phone. And yeah, so that is what's happening in his realm, and we jump back to the 17th floor to meet a cast of characters and some of those people, right?
Yeah, so on the 17th floor, meanwhile, two computer dudes are who he either hires straight out of college or straight out of high school or straight out of Compton. I'm not sure. But they're like, hey, this is illegal activity. And we've been doing this for a while. So we're gonna stick it to the Wall Street guys. So they go in there under the guise of like wanting to say, hey, we don't want to do this anymore because it's illegal. We don't think it's right. So if we would like more money, please, in order for that to happen. And then Bernie, like Bernie, at first they like go hard, like it's Joe Pesci and it's like Bernie, and they're like gangsters, like blah, 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 and they're like, we would like that in diamonds, please. Because they knew that if they asked for more money, like under the table, that it could be traced. So or something, but they decided that they wanted it in diamonds. So what, they could go down to like the diamond district and sell it. I don't know what they were going to do with these diamonds, but they it's so funny because like in our culture now, like I wouldn't know what to do with diamonds. Cash, I'd know what to do with that, but I wouldn't know how to sell diamonds. Like you just can't walk into a place and just I can't walk into Kay's jeweler and be like, hey, so I have these diamonds, would you like to purchase them from me?
And do they come like in a velvet sack? Right? I mean, they have to come in a velvet sack. You can't. There's
Yeah.
no other place to put a diamond besides like a velvet sack, and it's like
I don't know. So, anyways, they asked for that, and Madoff is just like, you know what? Never mind. Here, you just get 60K more a year. And they're like, okay. I said, only 60K? You asked for diamonds. And now you're like, okay, also I'm like, how were they on payroll? Were they on his legitimate business's payroll? I think they were, because I'm like, did y'all pay taxes? Like, it's just so crazy. Anyways, so he gives them 60K more a month, and they're cool with it. They just continue working with him, and the people who are doing the documentary are like, he probably, like, if they had more savvy, if they really knew what they were sitting on, they could have asked for so much more money. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. Like, if I had been like, wow, let me see what's happening on Jody's desk. If I saw what the fuck was happening on Jody's desk, I'm like, listen, this is what I'm gonna need. Okay. And then I would take it and disappear. They didn't disappear. They stayed working for him like two bumbleclots. So, anyways, that's the natural end of episode 2. Now we are moving on to episode 3, which is See No Evil. And I mean, just the FCC, SEC, SSC, CCS, they just failed it 100%, Chris.
Yeah, the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission. So we also pick up with another pair of victims of Bernie's talking. And it's like this white guy and his wife, who's also white. She has like a Sia haircut, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
super
but
great.
she's cute, whatever, God bless. And they're going to talk throughout the entire documentary. But so his point is this. He's like, I did due diligence on Bernie. Oh no, there wasn't one article that I didn't like clip out. I like Googled whatever like him. Like literally I'd be like, how the fuck is he making me so much money? But I would be on top of every time the SEC had brought him in or everything and being like, you guys keep auditing him, and you guys are okay with it. You guys are like, yep, stamp of approval. This is working for us. And if it's working for you, yes, it's working for me, because it is working for me in the sense of like I am making money, I think. And so I'm just gonna keep putting money in. So anyway, that's kind of like, and I understand that. And it's like a victim, it's like a weird thing to say. It's like he Bernie has perpetrated a crime, and the truth of the matter is, in a lot of it's like it's not it is his fault, but there are regulatory situations that really failed on a drastic level. And I think that we're used to sometimes some federal agencies failing, like when people fall through the cracks and mental health like does things and there's horrible whatever atrocities that happen out of that. And it's like where the buck stops and where responsibility stops. Like it does feel to me like these people have a case to sue. Like I'm just like, yeah, like you can, yeah, like you can, this is crazy to me. Anyway, so that's kind of like not just him, but that's kind of like what's happening in probably a lot of the minds of people that are following him. And like, also it's hard to do due diligence on this type of work. It's like unless you are a financial planner that can like really go in, or a mathematician like Harry, and I mean crunch numbers, what Harry's doing, and the to be able to mathematically find out what
We haven't gotten to Harry yet, so let me explain to him. So we are
Oh.
Frank Casey, right? Frank Casey is a Boston money manager who is in the finance world, and he meets with a wealthy investor by the name of Rene Rougeler, who is a aristocrat from Europe. Now, whether or not Rene is an aristocrat from Europe with a 100-room castle, we will never know. But he's like, I'm trying to like get this guy to like invest, or yeah, I'm trying to get this guy to work with my firm. But then when I go and talk with Renee, who like I'm cool with, we've met, like, and it's so funny because like Renee's is like aristocrat, and like Frank is like this Boston guy, he's like, yeah, I tried to tell Renee, who is an aristocrat. That's New Jersey or Italian or whatever. I just made it up, but it's wicked hot. You know what I'm saying? To do these accents. So, so he's talking to him, and he when Renee shows him some kind of documentation, the name of the secret like fund or investment person that he's working with is redacted in black. And Frank's like, hey, why is this redacted? Like, you need to tell me who you're working with. And he's like, nah, it's secret. We just make money with this person, and this is what it is. I don't have that. I don't have losses. And Frank is like, that is impossible. It's crazy. It can't be done. Right. So Frank goes back to his bosses, and he's like, yeah, there's something shady going on. And the bosses are like, figure it out. So Frank then, while Renee's back is turned, looks into like a manila folder he has on his desk to like see the name of this company, and he sees Madoff, and he's like, what, the Madoff has am I saying the right words, investment firm?
Mm-hmm.
Madoff has an investment firm. I thought he just had the one thing on the 19th floor in the lipstick building. He has another company, and it's unregistered. Interesting. So then his company, Frank's bosses are like, listen, we want to be competitive. Bernie can't just be this titan. We need to figure out what he's doing, why he's so successful in the market and working with the market in the way that he does. So crunch some numbers. So then the sales guy, Frank, goes to the math guy, Harry, and is like, hey, look at these numbers. Does this make sense? And Harry's like, I'm busy. There are numbers calling my name. And Frank's like, please look into it. And then Harry's like, okay. He looks at it. He's like, this is impossible. This cannot be real. Come back in 2 hours. Frank comes back in 2 hours, and Harry's like, seems like a fraud, do 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 do. And then the company is still like, okay, it might be a fraud, but how can we do it legitimately? And Harry's like, we cannot. And the company is like, figure it out. And so Harry then like burns the midnight oil trying to figure it out. He comes up with something that is not it would get the returns that the people would want, that their clients would want, but the risk is like way high, way high. But they really want that European money. They really, really do.
Yeah, absolutely. Harry becomes quickly our favorite. There's also another favorite character I have, which is Diana, who ends up being like another author of like, it's called The Wizard of Wall Street. It's like, I messed up The Wolf of Wall Street. There's so many, different entities of Wall Street. And yeah, he can't find a portfolio product that obviously matches, and no one wants to take the risk of 50%, especially if they can make the same returns without the risk. It's like, well, wait, I have this. Wait, I can either not make that risk and make the same money, or make that risk and make the same money, but also lose it. Just is that what you're giving me the options? I'm just gonna like let me think about that. Not do it. So it's like it's but it's not real. It's so weird. So Harry obviously is like, this is dumb, and submits a complaint to the SEC, honey. Like a long ass complaint, like detailed mathematician, like bullet point. There's bold prints. There's red flags of him being like, okay, first things first. This is bananas. This is wild. Like, this can't happen. This wouldn't be a real thing. Like that. So right off the way, isn't that weird? You guys, isn't that weird? Like, just goes down the list. Okay. Nothing.
SEC they're like, no, can't be.
See no evil. Is this what this called? Yeah, that's just like it's the SEC that's like, that's the little monkey in this. That's like, I don't know what's happening and who's there, and well, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah. So Harry decides that he's going to call like the papers and tell them. And they're like, listen, we won't print any accusations of a mathematician about one of the biggest business finance tycoons that we've got right now, who like is on the board of everything, like, and does like, we're not going to do this. So you need to, go somewhere else. So then Frank is like, you know what I need? I need a financial investigative reporter. And so he like is like, okay, how do I find that? So he just is randomly in Barcelona with his wife one day, and he meets one. So he gives this person the information, and once he says Madoff to that investigator's neck like breaks, trying to whiplash to look at Frank to be like, tell me more, because people probably have been rumbling about like how does Madoff do it, but nobody wanted to go up against him. So the SEC, because they got a complaint, they had to do something. So they didn't do something for a while, right? And then they decided to do something. So then they called him and they're like, hey Burns, what are you doing? And Burns like, I'm good. And they're like, hey, so do you have a secret hedge fund or a secret investment company? And he's like, no. And they're like, that's what we thought. Sorry to bother you. See you at golf in Palm Beach in 2 weeks. Goes about their business.
So so he doesn't. It's weird because this is okay. My dad is a registered investment advisor. So what he does, what he does what Bernie should have done. Like, technically, Bernie does not want to register as an investment advisor, because when you do, you have to not only like comply to certain SEC guidelines, but also like take continuing exams and like go to like conferences to like be on your game, because you have a fiduciary situation to your clients, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your clients to maintain like an ethical adherence to their wants and desires. You are giving them your trust and your ethics to be like, because money is a very important thing for people. So it's like their children, it's like it's their health. It's like there are certain things that we have to like give onto others a certain responsibility for to like move in this world, but like they're incredibly precious and we need to make sure the people that have them in their hands are like good people. It's very hard though. So yeah, Madoff also will have a lot of like luck in his enemies and his friends, and there is also like a frenemy aspect. At one point, and I know this might be off, he like talks about people that he'll like keep closer. He is a manipulating person, moving people in and out on a chessboard to get what he wants. So
9/11
yeah,
happens,
yeah,
and when they show footage of 9/11, you guys, as somebody who lived there, I was like, I can only imagine what the folks were going through. Living there, I met people who had so much PTSD from New York City, and I was in retail. I had a guy once who I was selling shoes to, and I was selling him some just like loafers, and he was like, do you have something that has a little bit of rubber on the bottom? And I was like, yeah. And I showed him these, and he's like, I need to be able to run. And I was like, okay. And he just got up and like started running around the store. And then he's like, yeah, I was down there during 9/11 and like my shoes just weren't accurate for that. And I said, yeah, I'll show you everything that has a rubber bottom. And I had that one interaction with that one guy, and I was just like, wow. And then my friend Jill lived there during it too. Like, so I mean, it is New York City is such a space where people don't talk to each other, but we all connect. And so knowing what Bernie did, like it's even more like interesting because I know the effect that it could have on folk. And I also know like we talk about money and it seems like everyone's like, oh, it's greed. But there is such an energy to the East Coast in certain places that lends to this idea of commerce and the exchange of money. There is an energy in New York City specifically that lends to that. It lends to, a city that never sleeps. It lends to going on vacations during the winter. And I got very used to that lifestyle. So like I get it. When you're like, we go to Palm Beach, Florida for the winter, I'm like, I understand. I
yeah.
go to Dominican Republic for the winter. I go here for like I get it. So you don't want to leave that life. You don't want to let it go. Chris?
Yeah, so basically, his profits start to get squeezed on his legitimate side of the business, and it's not the first time that he will now start to prop up his legitimate business with the funds that he just gets to intake from his illegitimate one. And the way that he does it, he has to wire, because everything is fake or in a fraud, he has to wire funds across the seas and then have those turn into treasury bills to come back and be able to I guess not have tax people or the IRS get him, but I mean, I don't know why he would fear any sort of government entity. He seems to have everyone wrapped around his finger. So so as we said, there's a lot of Europe money in this fund.
Let me jump
Yeah,
in and say one thing.
sure.
So another reason why I think that his legitimate business had such issues is because he was so extravagant and decadent with them. One of the things that you learn as a business person is that payroll, your employees are your most expensive expense. And he would hire people who were not doing anything for the company, who were not actually contributing and making money in a way or doing whatever to keep those things profitable. So while we're like, oh, his legitimate business was his legitimate business, it probably on its own would not have been super um profitable for the way that he was like giving someone a diamond ring, a necklace. Like he was giving everyone gifts and shit. And so like it was being funded from the 17th floor, but also there was no checks and balance with that because he knew that the 17th floor could possibly always bail them out. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So Harry goes back to Europe, right? And this is one of my favorite parts. Like Harry's just being taken around by like rich French people. Okay, how fucking fabulous! I'm just like dying over this. At one point, they show the Arc de Triomphe, honey, and it's in the Arc de Triomphe is like right in the like Champs de Élysées or whatever, and like it's right right by the Hotel de Crillon, which I love, and Buddha Bar, right across the way. I don't know if Buddha Bar is still there, but this is how I live my life. Anyway, the Arc de Triomphe. Harry looks and like the guy's like, hey, do you like see those like names on that big piece of famous rock right there? And Harry like does, and he's like, yeah, like those names, like that's who we're having dinner with. It's just the elite of the elite, private bankers in France who like, whose last names have like built structures hundreds of years ago. Like it's that kind of thing where as Americans, we're like that kind of like upper echelon class thing doesn't quite exist here. So now, one also important thing, and which I think is interesting as a financially literate person, when we're talking about risk, we talk about minimizing risk, right? And the way you minimize risk is diversification, making sure you don't have all your eggs in one basket, because if all your eggs are in one basket and that basket fails, honey, all your eggs break. But if you have 10 eggs and you have 5 eggs in 5 different baskets, whatever, and 2 eggs double up sometimes. If one basket breaks, you got a lot of eggs left. Okay. That's why, basically. So it's interesting that these high level bankers, right, are putting more and more money into one basket and not even diversifying away from Bernie just in case to mitigate that risk. It's like the greed overtakes what is like basic financial knowledge when you get to that kind of thing. It's just it's like math. It's like, yeah, 1+1 = 2. You diversify your things. It's crazy to me how sophisticated, if we're going to use that word, supposed sophisticated financial people, not even just, I mean, across the board, people were taken by him, truly. Even the SEC. Go ahead.
Yeah. I also think that it could just be due to the fact that some of these banks were backed by such rich families that the idea of like a lot of these rich families got their money on the backs of the poor, of slavery, of all kinds of things. So they're not like, when you've been rich for so long, I think that you don't see the bottom. Like you're just like we'll just do this. This is making us the most money. It's always we'll bounce. We'll always have money. We'll always make money. We'll figure it out. So I think there's like a little bit of an arrogance, because at the end of this, they all get bailed out anyway. So like while there is a loss that could have happened, the way that this exploded, nobody went to jail. People just paid fines, and then the governments bailed them out as banks. So like a lot of the super rich did not get unrich because of this, So I think that's also interesting too. There's a little bit of risk that they're willing to take, because like truly, are they going to end up living out of a Honda Civic with 2 suitcases? Like that is the saddest story of this entire thing, which we'll talk about next episode. So we start to see that Bernie is getting a little weird and fanatical, because like Harry is like, I don't know if he knows who Harry is, right? But Harry is not taking any chances. Okay. Harry is like carrying a gun. Harry is like starting to get like paranoid, as he should be, because of what's going on and what he's seeing. He doesn't know if Bernie's going to put a hit out on him, you know what I'm saying? But Bernie, because he's such an OCD kind of fanatical, like sociopath, crazy person, he like in different points of his life is overbearing and extra, is the only way I can think of it. And it's a very like layman's term for it. But we then pivot to his relationship with his family. And we talk about Peter again. And everyone is like, oh, Peter was probably very scared of Bernie, because Bernie would berate him in front of everybody. Bernie would belittle him. Bernie was a bully to him as they go. And then when he found out that Peter was going to therapy, Bernie publicly shamed him in front of those of his colleagues. And I just think like, what could you imagine, like loving your older brother so much, giving you all this opportunity, like providing a lifestyle that you would not have been able to procure on your own, yet he is willing to berate you in front of strangers, not strangers, but non-family members, and even in front of family members. So like, I can only imagine how he might have treated his sons. Like, I know that his secretary wants to believe that like his sons like walked on water and that everything was perfect, but that kind of person doesn't just treat certain people or his brother. Like that person treats everyone around him poorly. Everyone gets that wrath. Everyone is indebted to him, because he could pull their lifestyle up from underneath them at any moment. So we talk about the brother being ahead of compliance and just not doing anything that is what a compliance officer does. And that is the biggest red flag, I think, that the SEC completely let go of, the fact that you have your own brother as your compliance officer. That is the person who is supposed to ensure that the audits are done, that the books are correct, that everything has an I and a T is crossed, and there's the dotted line. Like they're the one to make sure that the company is doing everything that they're supposed to do. So like, how could they not know if something bad was going on?
Yup. So basically, the SEC gets the multiple hairy letters, and they've had the Barron article. And so they decide to send two junior investigators to come to the office, an in-house audit, if you will. And there's a big conference, center, and they're like, it's one of their first times they get into the office, and then to their surprise, Bernie himself is like, "Why, hello, hi, come sit down in the conference center." And they describe it as like, could you imagine? I mean, yeah, could you imagine going to like Amazon and then just like having like be like, and Jeff Bezos is like, "Hey guys," because Jeff Bezos has a crazy ass eye. Oh, the craziest. And it's like, yeah, like sit down. No, not on Lauren Sanchez. Like for some reason, whatever, God bless it, he's with her. But like over there, and like, like, let me tell you about Amazon, whatever, God bless. So Bernie's like, yeah, like, like, hey, it's like super charming. Like, do you want a cappuccino? My girl will give you a cappuccino. Love that scarf. It's like, oh yeah, you guys, just like, me, Bernie, like head of NASDAQ board of directors, like about to be like such a big thing. And like, I'll tell you, honey, I know you. I know you. I see the good work that you're both doing. And I'm going to remember your names, your faces, both of those things. And we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, he's crazy.
You're just like, these people are like, cool, cool. Yeah, just like gonna like stay around and ask some questions. And Bernie's like, And then so like later on, Bernie rifles through their briefcases and finds the Barron article that's like basically like, how the hell does he fucking do things, and what the hell, and what's actually happening here, and like, is there an investment firm? And he confronts them, and they're like, yeah, no, that's okay. Yes, that's what we have to like ask you about, like what's happening. This is very confusing. We just like kind of keep hearing things, and
Bernie's like, yeah, I already talked to your bosses about that. So yeah, go ask them. And so they're like, oh, you did? And he's like, yeah, I already talked to them last week. Yeah, it's fine. Talk to them. Yeah. So I guess nothing to see here, nothing to do. Okay, thanks, Mr. Madoff. Like, we're going to close this case.
I know they leave the lipstick building. They probably get like a juice at Pret a Manger and then go back to their office. It's crazy. Anyway, so now listen. In the summer of 2005, there is another hedge fund group called the Bayou Group, and their manager ends up like, being exposed and getting arrested and having like news reports about how like he's a fraud and blah 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 blue. And like, obviously Bernie sees that and probably is like literally that emoji face with like the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bernie, here's the thing. He's not giving any money out. All he's doing is using money. Like, and he's not making money except for the fact that people are giving him money. You know what I'm saying? And all he's doing is spending it. Plus he has to give money to his top 5 givers whenever they want. So it isn't like, it's a weird situation. And he gets down to his final 13 million. And the problem is he has outstanding debts of 100 million. So then we meet two people, or we like read, because did we know Sonia Cohen?
We didn't know Sonia Cohen, but we did know Jeff Pickhour. So Jeff Pickhour comes to the rescue again, and then somehow he's introduced to this woman who walks in with fur coats and bath teeth. Her name is Sonia Cohen, and she would go to his office and they would close the door and talk. And that was very interesting to Eleanor, who was the assistant. She was like, what are they talking about in there? And she always says that Eleanor was just like a sweet, not Eleanor, Sonia was like a sweet grandma who would come in and she was very kind to everybody. But she always had one fancy thing on her at any given time. And I saw pictures of her and I was like, what is that wig? Chris, is that a wig she's wearing?
I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, I think that yes. I mean, she seems like a very unsavory character. She ends up making this like bank called the Bank Medici, which I mean, so the Medici family is a historical banking family, right? And it's specifically, I guess, in Italian, in Italy specifically, and just it's like you I okay, it's like using the word Rothschild or it's like using the word Astor. You know, it's like it's I'm trying to think of like there's not really Kennedy,
Rockefeller.
Rockefeller. It's like suddenly if Chris Farah, me just being like, you guys, I'm creating a new bank. It's the bank of the Kennedy Rockefellers.
Yeah.
Kennedy Rockefeller Bank. You know, you're just like, oh, I know those last names. You know, they personify whatever, just like dignified wealth, generational wealth, I guess. Or like it's obviously it would be a very pointed attempt at me at getting you to think that this is like a very old, historic, moneyed institution. And if you found out that like I made it in 2023, wouldn't you be like, huh, the hell is she trying to pull? But that's what Sonia Cohen does.
And it got all these backers. Like it immediately, because it got one backer, then that backer, it was like owned by like this other big thing. And then like it was even owned by another big thing. So it was like all of a sudden it just became super legitimate. And that is what she did her feeder funds with Bernie too. But she
Mhm.
made sure to cover her butt. So 100%. She was like, we're both scammers. I see you, you see me. Scam, scam, scam away. So she was one of his feeder funds, and they worked together. And it turns out after Harry like has kind of done his little research, and how when the government or whoever does their research, they find that of all the feeder funds, like let's say this man has 250 200 300 feeder funds, 79 of them are in the US and 200 of them is from Europe.
Or as Yara from 90 Day Fiance would say, your rope.
Yes. Like he has scammed the Europeans, the rich Europeans more than the US, right? So but again, I said was saying before, like they probably were just like, listen, we're used to making money by hook or by crook anyway. That's how my family got here. So it's fine. So nobody though wants to believe truly that Bernie is in as deep in something so illegitimate as what he's probably in, right? Like that's the problem too with the reason why the SEC didn't look into it as much is because they were just like, it can't be possible. Like, yes, people have Ponzi schemes. Yes, they do this, but could it be from Madoff, who like pioneered the technological and financial era of the US in the late 80s and early 90s? Could it be this charitable man who has the ear of all the important players in the US and some that are across the pond? It can't be. But now Bernie is in so deep that even if he wanted to kind of extradite himself and like do legit, he couldn't, because they refer to it as the golden handcuffed. And this is just this like, it's a handcuff, but it's made out of gold. So it's fun. It's fine.
I have a
uh,
lot of them.
yeah. So at this point, Harry is like mad frustrated. He's like, listen, I am an honorable guy who has had to watch his back for the last 8 years or whatever. And you guys need to do something about him. So he sends like a final 17-page document. I mean, there is no jargon in this. It literally says red flag number 1. And then it's a paragraph. And it's ever changing. He has continuously updated it. It's not like he's like giving them information from 2000. Like he continues to follow Bernie and continuously update it. He has turned in reports to the SEC 2000, 2001, 2005, 2006. He's done it 4 different times. And in between 2006 and whatever, Bernie makes so much money. So like he's so pissed. This entire time he's just really, really mad. Chris?
Yeah, I so basically at this point the docu-series also starts doing kind of like a slot machine thing where it'll say like January 2006 and then it'll be like 486 million invested, and it's kind of like showing us, well, as the time progresses, how quickly it goes up, because it starts, it's kind of like this thing. I don't have this, but they say, like, once you become like an influencer, like once you get past a certain amount of likes, your likes start to go way up, because there's this thing when you follow someone, you're like, well, I want to follow someone. This person's interesting. Oh, they have 1 million followers. Well, I guess another million people think that they're interesting too. Follow. As opposed to like, oh, this person's weird. Like, oh, that person has 192 followers. Huh. Eh, eh. Whatever. Like, there is that thing where the more someone has people what perceive behind them, it's easier to give either allegiance or respect. So in the final years, again, the money is just coming in, just pouring like it's pouring outside.
In 2006, that's the final time that Harry puts in with the SEC. And the SEC is like, oh, God, this Harry guy, let's go look into it again. And somehow Bernie gets wind of it. And so he decides that he is just going to go into the SEC's office. Like, he's just going to go there. No lawyers, no brother, no one to even hold his bloody briefcase. He walks in there like a boss. He sits down and he's like, ask me anything.
AMA.
And they're like,
like a Reddit AMA, honey. Go ahead.
Ask me anything. And so then they're like, where do you trade? Where are the options? Like, more importantly, let me see the bank account. And this is I don't know the title. It's a bank account where it should literally show all of the transactions and trades that are happening. It should detail everything. And he doesn't have this bank, you guys, because he uses a JP Morgan regular ass bank account. Okay. So he doesn't actually have an account, and he's not going to give them the JP Morgan account. Like, he's, whatever. So he goes in there, he answers their questions, he writes on a piece of paper what the account number is. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, does he know the numbers off the top of his head, or did he pull out a fake, like, manila folder and just like jot down some numbers? Like, what happened? So he gives it to them and they go, okay, thank you. And so it's Friday. So Bernie's like, I at least have the weekend, right? Because banks already closed. They're not going to open until Monday. So he goes off that weekend, and everyone's like, we don't know what he must have been feeling during that weekend, just waiting for the axe to fall. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, no axe. Tuesday, no, not even a stiff wind on Tuesday. Wednesday, nothing happens, because later on the SEC people will testify that they forgot.
And in one of their pockets is a yellow Post-it with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was like folded up and put in their pocket.
They forgot. They are auditing the biggest thing ever in their careers. They are auditing this man who is knee deep in so much stuff, but they don't do anything. And for the next 2 years, until he finally is caught, and he's only caught because of the crash, he makes billions. I mean, he ramps it up times 10. And so usually right before there's a crash, there's like this moment of where everyone's being really decadent. I don't know. I was so poor, like 2004 to 2008. So like, I don't remember all this money. I even was in retail in Rodeo Drive selling shoes, and folks wasn't buying them. I did mean cream Abdul-Jabbar during that time. So great for that. But like,
that was a big foot. That was a big foot.
Bigfoot. I didn't know people were having such an amazing time in this time of their lives, but apparently they were. And then the Dow Jones falls in 2008, and the avalanche starts. People start to sell. And again, Bernie's business is a legitimate business where he is a middleman who's responsible for always selling and trading stock, because he kind of sits in the middle. He's not Amazon. He's not the person buying Amazon stock. He's in the middle. And so when people then start to call and say, I need my money, I would like to sell, I would like to sell, I would like to sell, he starts to cut checks, and then he starts to quickly run out of money. And it is like the whole scheme is going to blow up in his face. And it could have been caught. It could have saved people so much money had in 2006 the SEC remembered to fucking check his bank account. Now, here's what I think, and here's what I think the documentary couldn't say. I think that he paid them off. There is, what are they too busy to do? Like,
Yeah, I'm like, did those people that like came that day, are they dripping in Rolex watches? Like, can you check how many Chanels they have? Is it weird? I'm just wondering. A, absolutely yes. B, so yeah, they talk a little bit about, of course, why the stock market crashed, and if you just want to know why 2008 is the big deal, it's because people were given home loans by shady companies, by companies that knew that these loans weren't good, weren't going to be able to be paid back in such a way. They were like faulty loans, and then those loans were packaged by banks, and then people invested to buy those products, and then when the loans couldn't get repaid, the people didn't get money. It was just like it was a free for all. So um anyway, my love, can you believe we actually got to this end of this episode? Plus, that is the end of this episode. We only have one more episode left, honey. And we will also get into a little bit of what we might know about some of the players after. So we might have done a little research. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We wholeheartedly appreciate your ears in this matter. If you want your eyes to be in on it, we have options for you. Free options would be social media at DocuSweeties exists on Instagram, at DocuSweeties on TikTok, and at DocuSweeties1 on Twitter. We need influence, just like Bernie Madoff used to have. So please follow us so we can take everyone's money. But if you want to give us money, don't worry, there's a legitimate way you can.
and
What?
that's via Patreon. So if you would like to see the visuals of what you are listening to, what is tickling your eardrums at this moment, you can go to patreon.com/DocuSweeties to get exclusive content. You're going to get these podcasts, the visual versions, immediately after we have edited them. I mean, filmed them. Sorry, immediately after we've recorded, and we do live every first Monday of the month. There's right now exclusive content on there. We've got Killer Sally, that's a docu-series. We've got Call Me Miss Cleo, that's a docu-series. There might be some shows that we do exclusive. We don't know. So it just depends on how many people run over to Patreon for that exclusive content.
Yes, honey. So please join. It's a great investment with zero risk. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, we love you guys so much. If you don't mind, give us 5 stars. Other than that, we hope you have, a beautiful rest of your day, beautiful rest of your week. We love you guys so much. Okay. Bye.
Bye.